Assalamu alaikum, guys. I'm your host, Aberhaam, for the Salams podcast. I'm joined here today by a great friend of mine, Jae Deen. And before we get into this interview with this influential Muslim, I just want to say a big thank you to the Salams team for having us all here today, allowing us to collaborate and interviewing such amazing people. Jay, how are you feeling? What are you
I'm feeling blessed, bro, man. I'm back in Dearborn. Haven't been here in a few months. It's good to see you again, you know what I'm saying?
Too, man.
We're brothers, man, you know what I'm saying? So it's an honor, man. I'm happy to be here right now, man.
Alhamdulillah. So what have you been up to? What's some new projects that you're working on for someone that's watching that may not know who you are?
Definitely. So basically, obviously, I'm an influencer. I'm a musician. I've been in the public eye for 8 years now.
Yeah.
And a big part of my journey was part of the Deen Squad journey. Me and Carter Zahar, making music, about Islam, trying to inspire young kids and stuff like that. Because when we started, we kind of felt like there aren't enough role models whom the kids could relate to, who the Muslim youth could relate to at the time, you know what I'm saying? And even when I first became Muslim, I became Muslim when I was 15 years old. So when I became Muslim, I didn't really know who I could really look up to. The way I learned the religion was just through reading books and watching a bunch of YouTube videos from scholars. But I didn't really have that influencer who was who kind of looked like me, who talked like me, who I can 100% relate to. That almost made me proud of my Muslim identity.
Yeah.
So basically, I decided to become the role model that I wanted to be.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? When I started making music about Islam and Deen and stuff like that. So alhamdulillah, that was a good journey of my career. That was 5 years. And then, the Deen Squad band split up. But and then I decided to become a solo artist, right? So now I'd say my career is based on still inspiring people, but not just through music, for example.
Okay. And so when you say still inspiring people and you're taking on a new direction for content, is that through the languages that you're learning right now?
Yes, so definitely. So besides music, there's the language journey, because I feel first of all, learning a language, for me personally, if you ask me, why did I start learning languages? Why did I even do it in the first place? What really inspired it? To be honest, what really inspired this journey was just for me to find a way to protect my mental health, basically, right? So if I'm going through any sort of situation, if I'm stressed out, if I'm upset, what am I going to escape to? Because everyone has some sort of an escapism from the reality. If they're in a bad mood, somebody wants to watch a Netflix series, binge watch.
Yeah.
Some people just want to hang out with friends.
This is your form of your escape.
Yeah, so this is my form of escape.
Yeah.
To stimulate my brain. And so I'm doing something that's actually very beneficial for me.
So cool.
So in the future.
How many languages do you know right now, as of right now?
As of now, so I've studied 6 languages.
What are the 6 languages?
So Arabic was the first one. That was 2018 I started learning.
Mm-hmm.
Arabic, French, Urdu, Somali, Malaysian.
Mashallah.
And now I'm learning Turkish.
And he's gonna be going to Turkey soon.
Yes, and I'm going to Turkey in literally 2 days from now.
What's the goal for the next language after Turkish is over? Learning Turkish, which it is.
Yes.
What's the next language that you're gonna learn?
To be honest, I don't 100% know the answer, because I feel like all of the languages I've learned so far, I consider them how do I say this? They're the head languages of the Muslim world, because I like to learn languages spoken by Muslim countries. So I'm not 100% that interested in learning Spanish or Italian or German, because a lot of people learn these languages already. If I told you I'm learning Spanish, you're not going to be oh wow, you're learning Spanish. It's a very common thing. Same thing with French. French in Canada is the second most spoken language in Canada. Yeah. If I say I'm learning French, you're oh, good for you. You're supposed to learn French anyway. But if I tell someone I'm learning Somali
or Urdu
or Turkish, they're okay, why? What's going on? You really, really putting in time. So I feel there's just a more deeper connection with these languages, which is why I decided to only learn those particular languages, right? Arabic is a super popular language. Obviously, every Muslim is required to know some sort of Arabic, right? to understand the Quran,
To read and
pray
write.
and stuff
Yeah,
like that. Somali, for example, the Somali community is one of the most vibrant communities in the
Huge.
Muslim community. So
Big
it's like,
shout out to them.
yeah, big shout out to the Somalis, obviously, and you know, I was just very inspired by their community, so
Yeah.
I just wanted to learn about their culture, and I had such a fun time learning their culture too. You know
That's
what I mean?
so cool, yeah.
So every language that I've learned, there has been there's been a unique journey with each language.
And I feel like even you learning your language, I don't know if you've caught on to this, but I feel like, you know how you said that there's some sort of, you want to go forward towards representation and finding your own identity. I feel like you going and learning other people's languages is spreading their identity through your representation.
Absolutely.
So it's so cool that not only are you're going through a new direction in content,
Yes.
you're also sticking to that same principle that you started from day one.
Exactly, and that's so true because, for example, particularly with Arabic or Somali, for example, I used to like post videos of me speaking Arabic or speaking Somali, and then they would say things like, if this man can learn my mother tongue, the language I was supposed to speak growing up and learn, why can't I do it? As I can do it. If he can do it, I can do it. And that's exactly the response that I wanted to get from people, to inspire them. Inspire people to go back to their roots. Because once you go back to your roots, once you find yourself, you find God as well. You find God in that journey. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and the path to finding yourself and finding Allah, like there's so many different avenues in a cultural sense of the word. You know what I mean?
Speaking of that path, sorry to cut you off. Speaking of that path, how was it initially when you first converted to Islam?
When I first converted, I mean, it was beautiful. I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
I was 15. I was searching. I was always looking for like meaning growing up.
Yeah.
I don't know how at such a young age I was thinking that much. I don't know, but I always wanted to find a very, very deep connection with God. Right?
Yeah.
So when I discovered Islam at the age of 15, I researched for about 4 months. I used to go on YouTube, watch all these videos. I used to read the Quran. I read like half of the Quran. I used to read the Quran and the Bible side by side. And just by comparing the two religions, and this is no disrespect to any other religion, this is just my path, everything that I was learning about Islam was just aligning with me. Everything was just making sense. Everything was so simple. Everything was so clear. Every question that I had, Islam was able to answer that. Right? So
could you give an example of like what Islam answered? Or like what you saw figuratively that was like very clear to you that Islam was like, oh hey, Islam, like this makes sense to me?
Definitely. I'd say like just like the basic core beliefs.
Yeah.
And again, this is not an insult or disrespect to any other path, but like, so I was born and raised Catholic.
Yeah.
So when I compare, for example, the core beliefs of Christianity and Islam, it makes more sense to me that Allah, God, is one God, and there's nobody equal to him, right? And in order for him to convey his message, he simply sends prophets to nations and tribes and communities to convey the message. And what is the message? To worship one God. It's that simple, right? But growing up, obviously I believed that, you know, there was the Holy Trinity, that God is the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, right? And all three are equal. And basically Jesus, alayhi salam, you know, is God, comes into earth as God to convey the message. And, you know, it didn't really, when I started researching, I'm like, God doesn't need to do such things to convey his message. He doesn't need to become human, equal. God is superior to his creation. He doesn't need to lower himself and take himself away from his own attributes to convey this message.
And you were 15 years old at the time, making these connections,
right? And also just the consistencies in the Quran, for example. Everything just made sense. The first chapter in the Quran that I read was Surah Maryam, which was about Jesus. So when I saw how much Islam respected, loved, honored Jesus and the other biblical prophets, I'm like, wow, like Islam is not really that far off from Christianity. It's actually really, really...
And it's not what people make it out to be from the outside.
Definitely, you know, so everything just started making more sense. And then I started reading about the life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and his life totally inspired me. And the reason why it inspired me is because I've studied about a lot of religious figures in history. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is one of the only historical religious figures whom you can historically prove existed. So I can't historically prove to you that a man named Jesus of Nazareth existed 2,000 years ago in modern day Palestine. I cannot historically prove that. But I can prove to you that a man named Muhammad ibn Abdullah lived in modern day Saudi Arabia 1,400 years ago, right? So, and obviously we believe in Jesus and Moses, we believe in these prophets, but to be able to historically and actually prove that the Prophet existed is a big thing. And also his life and his story is very relatable. Yeah. You know what I mean? And the reason why I like it, I love the Prophet's stories because it's like a rags to riches story. The Prophet started from the bottom. His father passed away before he was born. His mother passed away when he was 6 years old. Raised with his uncle, orphan, grew up struggling. You know, becomes a prophet at the age of 40. He loses everything. All of Mecca goes against him. You know, he goes to Ta'if. Stones thrown at him. For the first 13 years of Islam, there wasn't more than 20 followers. So Prophet didn't have more than 20 followers for years. This ummah that's 2 billion people was only 20 people at one point, and nobody was believing in the message. And then to get out of that position that he was in, and going to Medina, and then becoming the ruler of Medina, and then having thousands and thousands of followers, and to win his mission and convey that message is something really, really inspiring.
Very.
Right? And the fact that, for example, his sunnah is really emphasized, his life stories, or just basic conversations he would have with his companions. So it's more than just the religion now. Now we're talking about being a human. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So Islam just came with all those elements, not just spirituality, not just the topic of God himself, but the topic of being a human being and our character, right? Yeah. So one of the most popular hadiths by the Prophet ﷺ is, you know, I was only sent to perfect good character. Yeah. That's why the Prophet ﷺ is here. So for me, that's more than enough. Because, for example, when I judge a person's character, I'm looking at their personality. I'm not looking at how much they pray 5 times a day, how much the Quran they read, how righteous they seem to be on the outward. I want to look in the inward.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah,
behind the closed doors. What do you actually do?
Are you truthful? Are you honest in business? Do you lie? Do you talk behind people's backs? Do you spread false rumors about people? Yeah. These are the things that are more important. Do you love your mother and all these things? These are way more important to identify us as human beings than me just praying 5 times a day.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? So Islam emphasizes that, and that's why I truly, truly love, you know, the character of the Prophet ﷺ and who he was as a human being, because his way of being a human being truly changed my life. See what I'm saying? So if I didn't have Islam, I don't know where I would be today.
If I didn't have Islam as well, I would have no clue
where would we be right now? I see people, I've seen people who I went to high school with, and I look at them, I'm like, wow, like Allah really guided me when I was that young, because if I didn't get guided, I would have been in the same path as these old high school friends that I used to see. So I
just feel like I would feel so lost. There would be no principles to follow, no guidelines, nothing. Definitely. But let's shift gears a little bit.
Definitely.
Since we are on the Salams podcast,
yes.
I'm not married, you're not married.
I'm not married, no.
What do you look for in marriage?
What do I look for in marriage?
I'm putting you on the spot.
Put me on the spot. I like
so we can kind of break it down a little bit.
Yeah. I think, to be honest, the older I get, the simpler needs I realize I want.
Of course.
You see what I'm saying? I feel like, and I'm going to rewind, it goes back again to being a good human being.
Yes. Exactly.
So there's a lot of religious as men, right? There's a lot of brothers. They pray 5 times a day. They give charity. They fast all of Ramadan. They have their beards, mashallah, their thobe, all these things. You see these brothers, mashallah, this brother's so religious, he's so pious, he's so good. But he might abuse his wife, he might curse his wife, he might yell at his wife, he just physically, emotionally, and spiritually abusive to their spouse. So how is that a good Muslim? And the same thing applies to sisters. A woman can be fully covered, have hijab, prays, gives charity, everything, but her character is so filthy. She's dishonest. She lies. She gets angry. She gets angry too quickly. She amplifies situations that don't need to be amplified, right? So for me, now what I focus on is finding a good human being.
Yeah.
To be honest, if you're Muslim, alhamdulillah, you have to be Muslim, obviously. I wouldn't marry outside of my religion. So you have to be Muslim, obviously. But to be honest, if you are a very pure-hearted person and you're honest, you're sincere, you don't go behind people's backs, you honor the name of your friends when you're talking about them, for example, you speak good of your mother, for example, when you talk about your mother and all these things. I look at that because that's gonna last way longer in the future, because I know she's gonna treat me the same way when I'm not around her. She's gonna honor my name when I'm not around her. She's always gonna be a positive environment.
Hold it down.
You know, she's gonna
be your partner.
She's gonna be my partner.
Yeah.
So
I honestly I agree with that heavily. I feel like what Jay is like what you're getting at, and I agree with him 100%. I think we look for a foundation. Because when you have a strong foundation, you can build as many stories as possible on top of that. When you have a good man, you can build trust, you can build relationships, you can build everything through that foundation of goodness. When you have a good woman, you can build a good relationship. She can raise your kids properly. And I feel like once the foundation is there, everything else follows.
100%.
I feel like we can agree 100% on that.
Definitely. And so like I want a woman who has a solid foundation in herself, and somebody who's willing to build, somebody who's willing to grow with me. You see what I'm saying?
Because nowadays I feel like people want like a woman right now will want to get married to a guy that's already established.
Exactly.
You get what I'm saying?
Exactly.
There's no level, there's no ways of growth with one another. Obviously you want to get married as soon as possible to keep halal.
Right.
But at the same time, it would be really nice for me to get married and grow with my wife.
Exactly.
So when we see success together, we're grateful both for the success.
You're grateful for each other, and you're gonna know that she stood by you at your lowest point.
In my darkest, so obviously she's gonna be there in my lightest
You
time.
see what I'm saying? So it's like and I feel like that's one of the biggest issues.
Yeah.
For some reason, social media is just pushing this narrative.
This wrong narrative.
It's wrong that you have to have it all figured out.
Yeah, of course.
When you get married,
they're pushing this narrative on younger men, younger women.
Right.
When in reality, this is the ages in our early 20s, late 20s. These are the ages where you should be building, right? Obviously, you should never delay marriage if there's opportunity, if the person is in front of you, if you're financially all there. And there are some times where you don't even have to be financially all there, but to keep it halal, you push for marriage.
Facts.
But at the same time, you don't want to go in and talk to someone's father, right? The father of the daughter that you want to get married to, and not be ready, and make false promises of things that you can't provide. Because at the end of the day, the woman deserves everything that she asks for and more. Because the money that you make is her money, and the money that she makes is her money. At the end of that day. At the end of the day. So I feel like, yes, there are factors to it, but I feel like the narrative that is being pushed today in our society, especially through social media, it pushes this opposite narrative against the man, against the woman, and it's just not logical.
Right, yeah, like everyone's really just against each other. Nobody really sees it. It's really sad because marriage just seems like an ugly thing now on social media. To the point where I'm like, yo, I'm not looking for marriage. I'm at the mentality where it's like, if it happens, alhamdulillah. but I'm actually not chasing for it, which is the sad thing. It's honestly a sad thing, but that's just the way we were.
But you have to remember, when you don't chase, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings it
He
to
brings
you.
it to you.
So there's more hasanat. Instead of chasing, someone will come to you today, because at the end of the day, she is maktub for you. She is your nasib, and inshallah you'll find a beautiful girl.
Inshallah.
Best. We're gonna move into the next topic.
All right.
Obviously, you are extremely influential Muslim. The singing, the representation, everything, the identity. But I really want to talk about humanitarian work. What really got your feet wet? Like getting into the field of humanitarian work. What did you first start off with, where you were like, wow, I want to continue doing this? Was there like a specific project?
Definitely, I think it was a project I did in 2020.
Okay.
Just before the pandemic happened. I went to Kenya. I went to Kenya with Muslims of the world, and we helped people like get cataract surgeries.
Big shout out to Muslims of the world.
Big shout out to Muslims of the world.
Yasmin, we love you so much.
Love you, bro. So we did the cataract surgeries, and then just seeing how happy the people were to be able to see again. In that moment, I was like, okay, this is what I want to. I want to keep doing this. Yeah, I want to keep putting. I want humanitarian work to be part of my brand, so I can continue doing this work, because having a positive impact on people's lives is an undescribable feeling. Like,
it's a feeling you can't even describe.
I can't describe it, and it's like we will never understand how grateful they are, but at least getting a glimpse of how grateful they are is beautiful in and of itself. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, no, it's life changing, and I think that's the number one perk of having a social media platform. Just having a following, being able to say something and people will listen to you. If I post a link of where to donate money, people can donate to that. That is the best part about having a platform. I think that's the only good thing, to be honest. Everything else is just toxic, to be honest.
But
just toxic.
Alhamdulillah, that's amazing. Any other projects that you loved or you met are very memorable that you can think of right now on the spot? He's done so many projects, so me putting him on the spot right now is not helping.
I've done a lot. If you're talking in terms of charity, I think just all the trips that I've done with Muslims of the world, they've always been impactful. Yeah. And that's why I'm grateful. I'm grateful to him for MOTW for all the opportunities. But yeah, no, we've impacted so many lives. You know what I mean? And me and you, we've been on a trip together too, so you know exactly what I'm talking about.
How it feels. When you were explaining the feeling, like where you can't like describe it, it's so real.
Definitely.
Seeing those kids that like in Africa, we were in Africa together, seeing those kids like receive water and like clean filtered water for the first time, it's just a feeling that you can't describe at all. And I would never trade anything in the world for it. Definitely. But Jae Deen, I have a great question for you. That's gonna be the question that we're gonna exit the podcast with.
Let's do it, man.
If you were going to stop social media right now, or like, towards the end of social media, or wherever God leads you to, what do you want to be remembered by? How do you want someone 10 years, 5 years down the line to look back and be like, oh, Jae Deen, he was this, or he was that. What is your goal? What do you want to be remembered by?
I just want to be remembered as the man who inspired so many people in so many different ways. So I've already inspired an entire generation of Muslim youth through music, through the Deen Squad era, and that's something that nobody can ever take away from me. Alhamdulillah. Me and Carter Zahar, my former partner, and then also with my language journey. Most importantly, my most proud moment in my language journey is me reading and writing the entire Quran by hand and translating it. So, and the purpose of me being able to understand the Quran, that is my biggest accomplishment, because now for the rest of my life, I can understand the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when I pray. When I'm praying behind an imam, I understand him. And if there's one thing that I have done, which I would want the whole world to do, is that thing. Is as a Muslim. Connect with Allah. You can only connect with Allah through the Arabic language. In the deepest sense. With Arabic, with understanding the Quran, it will change your life. So I want to be remembered as the man who never gave up on what he was trying to run towards, he never gave up on it. He always achieved it. Anything he put his mind to, he did it. Any goal he ran towards, he did it. Any language he wanted to learn, he learned it. Any business, he got it. You know what I'm saying? So as long as I've inspired people, I'm good.
My man Jay. Big shout out to the Salams team and my boy Jae Deen.
Shout out to the Salams app.
Thank you so much.
Love
to
you
the
guys so
Salams
much.
app.
Jae Deen. Hey, download the Salams app too.
Download the Salams app today to listen to this podcast exclusively on the Salams app. My name is Aberhaam and I'm the Salams host. I'm so grateful to have my great friend Jay on here, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I did. And inshallah, we'll see you next time on the next episode. Peace.